Oh, go on, you can hear us, right? Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is Phillip Namanworth. Welcome to Creative Spirituality. And tonight we're talking about a lot of different Torah subjects, which are sprinkled throughout the entire five books of the Torah in different chapters. There are basically 54, some people count it differently, chapters in the entire Torah in the five books. And each one of these chapters has a different psychological, spiritual, philosophical leaning so that we learn from everything that we do. A new lesson every week. Come here. You want to say hello, Huey? Okay. It's mine. Okay, you have to go outside now, okay? Or you could sit next to me. My grandson Huey is here. Do you want to say, you can show him, just show him. Okay. So every week has something to tell us, but it has something to tell us about ourselves because the Torah is the way we communicate with something higher than ourselves. Hey, Nan, who would you please take Huey out, please? Close the door. Hate to chase him out, but he's getting ready to play the piano. I like him to play the piano, but there's time and place for everything. This week is we're in the second book of the Torah, which is called Shmos. In English, they call it Exodus, based on the Greek translation. And but the Exodus is a very important concept in Judaism because we are in exile in many ways, and that will be a theme of the class throughout the year, what it means to be in exile. In other words, what does it mean to be slightly disconnected? Or is our intellect connecting with our emotions enough to affect our behavior? I mean, we call this class creative spirituality. Spirituality seems like something you could engage in while you're meditating or wearing a smile and thinking about important things. But what does it mean to be creative? Creative means you have to bring your philosophical understanding into your body and into your life. That's why everybody is creative. And this class is not just for people in the arts or anything. It's for people who are experiencing life itself, because every day brings new opportunities in the form of challenges and in the form of easy opportunities. And what do we do with these things and how do we handle them? So we have what's called a 613 step program. Way before self-help books, the Torah is not a self-help book. The Torah is a self book. It's a book of yourself and your soul. The only way you can understand what that means really is by studying the Torah a little bit or a lot, because it's not a book. It was a communication from non-existential reality, which we call undefined layers of existence. Some people call it God. I don't like to even use that word because it makes people have to think of something. And our level, because the question comes is how can God communicate with us? We're in this limited material existence, and whatever reality is, it's huge and it's powerful. And so the interface between those two realities, God's real true reality and us who live in a material world, is the Torah. So the claim that the Torah makes is that the Torah is a blueprint for life. Now, the only way to prove or disprove that is to try it out. We live in a world of where there are so many, it's a big spiritual marketplace, and you see this all over. People are trying this thing and Buddhism and Hinduism and this ism and every ism that they can find. So the Torah has to be able to answer the fundamental questions of life and death on a daily basis, or else it's not doing its job. So even though we are meant to wholeheartedly follow the Torah, we are still meant to question it. So there's a little bit of a paradox and a dichotomy which exists throughout Judaism. You do what you're supposed to do, but you question it. Similarly, if you have a close, long-term relationship with someone and all of a sudden you don't understand what's going on, you don't leave the relationship, you question it. You see what's going on, you battle through it because it's in that struggle that you use more elements and more effort than you usually do on a normal, quiet day. The fumagra sacra, we say, according to the effort is the reward. I know that it would be nicer if Hashem just made it easier for us and we could just do it a lot easier without all the struggles. But since it's what we call a world of concealment, and over the weeks we talk about what concealment means. In fact, this second chapter of the book of Exodus, of the book of Shmos, is called Va'era. I appeared. Moses, God sends Moses and Aaron to Pharaoh, and things don't work out so well at first. And he says, not only am I not going to let the Jewish people go, but I'm not going to give you straw anymore. And now the people's lives are worse, right? We've all read about that. But the Medrash says they left for 6 months before they came back and faced him again. So, and then Moses comes out and complains to God. What, you told me to go to to Pharaoh and talk to him about letting the Jews go, and you made the life worse. What are you doing? And Hashem responds, Vo'era, I appeared to the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as Kel Shaddai, but I am known to you as Yud Ke Vav Ke, which is a crazy kind of answer. And to make it even more complicated, as a comment on Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Rashi has one word. He just says they're the Avot. Well, we know that they're the Avot. What does Avot mean? The fathers. We say Abraham Avinu, Yitzhak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, the mothers of Rachel Imonu, Sarah Imonu, etc. But what do we call Moshe? Moshe, we call Moshe Rabbeinu. There's a difference in function. But Moses goes to Pharaoh and then it doesn't work out and he gets a little bit upset. Whereas Abraham was told to go to Egypt when there was a famine and he got into all kinds of trouble. He took his wife and the same thing happened with Isaac and they didn't really complain. They didn't hak Hashem Nishkin Chinik. So Hashem says, he answers Moses by saying, I spoke to the Avot and they just did what I told them. But you, even though you're built on having a sense of truth that's irrevocable, you have to learn something from the Avot. Now, when Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were going through their journeys, they had this incredible Mesiras Nefesh, which means they totally believed in God. When you say that Abraham did such and such, and that's why we do it, who taught Abraham? There was nobody. He had to have extreme faith in reality. It's like he could taste reality. And that's the way the Torah is. With the Torah, you taste a reality. You may not be able to define it at first, but it's a different reality than what you're getting from the media and from the culture. It's a different reality. And he wants Moses, who's going to be the leader and take them out, who's already argued with him for 7 days that he doesn't want to go because he doesn't speak well. He has a lisp. And God says to him, Misam Pella Autumn, who gave you a mouth? You're worried about a lisp? I told you to do something. I gave you the mouth. You'll speak. And what happens? Hashem says, okay, you don't want to go? I'll let Aaron go with you, which leads into a very, very interesting thing. I know I'm going around a little bit in circles here, but let's do it one at a time. First of all, he's telling Moses, you're a leader of the kind that can draw down from heaven, who's going to draw down from heaven the Holy Torah. The Avot were on such a level that they could not even draw it down. Only you can. They transcended it in some way. But you have to have the Mesiras Nefesh. In other words, you have to love the Jewish people the way a father loves his children. Right? Kurachim avabonim, kein terachim Hashem aleinu. Have mercy on your children as a father has mercy on his son. You can't just be a leader. You can't just go to Pharaoh when the first sign of difficulty goes wrong. You can't turn around and say, well, what's going on? The Avot didn't do that, which leads us into a very interesting thought. For a child to have confidence in this world, and we're meant to be the teachers for our children, you can't just be the teachers for your children. You have to be their parents first. You have to love them. They have to get that. I don't know what happened there. Did you see something happen on the screen?
You froze.
Yeah, you froze and
Okay, I'm back.
you are.
I don't know. Press escape for double click to full, whatever it is. Okay. In order for a child to learn from a father, and that's the father's job, the mother is to nurture the child first. And of course, both parents nurture him, but to be a teacher, in other words, to transmit the values and the love. First, the child, as they say in certain places where there's learning, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. It's very similar with children. If they know you love them and they feel confident that they can make mistakes, they can do all the things that children do, and you'll help them. And we know, unfortunately, that there are some parents who cannot deal with that. Then they'll get to a Rabbeinu, a place where they can learn from a real teacher. Now, you see in cults, what happens is a lot of people who never got that, they find these teachers who actually, treat them like parents. We love you, come in, we'll take you in, everything you do is okay. But they're doing that in an age where everything you do is not okay because you're old enough to make choices. So Hashem says, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they didn't hock me. But listen to what he says. I appeared to them, but by my name, Yud-K, Vav-K, they didn't know me. What does that mean? He appeared to the forefathers, but Moses knows him. Now, the only way to understand this is to look at the names used. Hashem is known by 10 names, at least 7 or 10 names, which this actually Hashem has no name. Baruch Hu, blessed is he. Ubaruch Shemo, and then blessed is his name. A name is the aspect of reality where Hashem's energy enters the world through Malchus to create a world. It's a lower form of energy than God's essential energy, which is transcendent. The name Yud, then a Hey, then a Yud and a Hey, which we call Hashem, and sometimes we call it as Havaya, he was, he is, he will be, is from a transcendent reality that is way above reality. But he says, I appeared. In other words, I was almost seen by the forefathers and the mothers. We even say that, Ishmael and they saw angels and things like that. They saw it because it came from a lower level where God's energy already enters creation, and then it's given to the prophets. So it says, what's the difference between Moses and all the other prophets? Moses is called a scaphlaria meira, a clear, like a clear glass. And the prophets received from a place that's not a clear glass. In other words, a lower level. And it says that the prophets, in order to receive the message from Hashem, some had to take off their clothes, some had to go by water, some had to play music. Moses was so one with Hashem on that level that he would say, okay, I'll go ask Hashem. An amazing thing. But there's two different names. In the first one, when I appeared to the forefathers as Kel Shaddai. That means God spoke and said enough. He created a world, and as it was expanding, he said, that's enough. Stop here. In other words, something with limitations. But they didn't know, in a certain sense, the name Hashem. Now, when we say the word know, Yoda, it's not just an intellectual knowledge like Chochmah and Bina. Da'as is an experience that you know it. It's part of you. It says Adam Yoda es Chava. He knew Chava. Doesn't just mean they had relations. It means they understood and knew each other on such a level of togetherness that's what the real partnership is in life. A man and a woman like that, you have to know the person. And you can get to know them. So the Jewish ways in love and marriage, which are very holy. So Moses comes back later and he's speaking to Pharaoh. But the thing I noticed this week, and this is just very personal, is he comes back with Aaron, right? In many other religions, it's usually one person. Here we got two brothers. And not only that, there's a sister involved. So the whole story of Judaism is two brothers and a sister in a way, because it's Miriam, through her own prophecy, who tells Amram, who's the leader of the generation, to stop having children, because Pharaoh said, throw all the boys in the water and the girls you'll keep alive. And Miriam goes to her father and says, you're killing everybody, and convinces him. So now you have like a triumvirate. It's a very interesting thing about how our religion and how we receive the Torah. When we came across the Sea of Reeds, it says the children of Israel sang, and then that Miriam sang with the women. In the desert, the clouds of glory came from who? Moses, I think. Water from a rock is Miriam. Bread from heaven, I'm not sure which one. Who knows? Lindy, which one is which?
I think bread from heaven was through Moses.
Bread from heaven is through Moses, the manna.
Water from a rock was Miriam.
And the clouds of glory are from Aaron. So our whole story, if you think about it, involves men and women. Now, we could say that Moses was this pure prophet. Aaron was a little bit more flexible because Moses sort of had a certain gevura. We think of him as holy, but he had certain gevura because he had to teach the people the rules, where to do what. But the side of Aaron is on the side of chesed, totally giving. So in Pirkei Avot, in chapter 1, number 12, it says, be like Aaron, pursuing peace and loving peace. Doesn't say be like Moses. And what was the function of Miriam? If the function of Moses and Aaron is to provide all these things for the Jewish people, what was Miriam's function? Well, bread from heaven is something that you eat inside your body. It's something you digest. It becomes part of you. That's food. The clouds of glory is shelter, right? So you have roof over your head and you have food. What is the function of the water? Which is Miriam. The function of the water is to spread the nutrients throughout the entire body. Through her came the ability for us to absorb all these things and have them nourish all the different parts of the body. So I had never thought about this, something a little bit I hadn't read anywhere else, but it's okay. Today's my Hebrew birthday. I'm allowed to think of things. The Holy Shalom, Isaiah Horowitz said that when he was reading Rashi, um, I have my own interpretation here. He says, God put it in my mind. He wants us to think. So I'm just noticing when I look around all the Michigas in the world today, it's this one's the follower of this one, this the follower of that one. But we're the children of Abraham, Isaac, and we're children of a family, and mothers and fathers and three leaders. We come from a household. We don't come from just one person, right? And a lot of the stuff had to be filtered. Abraham, when he was out teaching everybody, since he was the Midah HaChesed, when you have the Midas of giving, there's no stopping to the giving. So Abraham taught everybody everything, no matter if it got listened to or not. But he was bringing it down for the first time. But Sarah saw, and Isaac saw that that's not going to work in the long term to build a people. So he became Gevura, which means he put limitations so people would have to work to embody what they learned. And then Jacob, part of that process, was a combination of both. But by combining both, he brought forth what's called the Midah HaEmes, the Midas of truth and compassion. So he was a balance, but he was a completely new thing. We're not called the children of Abraham, though there's spirituals with that name of Isaac. We are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but we are Bnei Israel. Yisrael is the name of Yaakov. He's the only one who had it in him to handle 15 different kinds of personalities. 12, I mean, the 12 tribes, and of course the wives. Each Abraham and Isaac had one son, and one son that was negative, that was Klippa. But Jacob had gotten to a point where he was able to get the balance correct. Because in Judaism, everything is very much a paradox, and it's a weighing of things. We each, as the seven candles of the menorah, have seven different emotional DNA in us. And in each person, they're a little bit of a different balance. And our job is to get that balance right. So if you're the person who's always giving, make sure you don't have so much trouble receiving. See which thing is out of balance. People go to shrinks and they say, "Oh, I feel everything's going wrong in my life," but it might just be one aspect. Maybe your netzach, which means endurance, and ambition is negligent. If you work on the thing that's not working, and the Torah will help you find which of those things is out of balance. So Moses appears. He goes to see Paro. And God says to him, "You're not going to have much luck with this guy. But since I'm coming to take the people out of Egypt, what I'm coming to is to break the exile that you are going to find yourself in your life on a daily basis. You're going to have limitations and boundaries and things that are tough for you to break. But I'm going to give you a program of how to break through them. But first, I have to do it within Pharaoh." Pharaoh was from a very high level of existence. I think he's called the level of Akudim, where the lights are not bounded. It's tremendously powerful. And that's why in Parshas Bo, it's going to say Moses was afraid to go to Pharaoh because he had to meet evil at its essence. And sometimes we have to do the same thing. Evil being defined as that part of us that's taking control and having too much say, but it might have already formed a habit. So God says to Moses, "I have to show Pharaoh, I'm going to show my might to teach them a lesson and also to teach the Jewish people. I want them to know because until that time, the name Elohim could signify a shefa, the rays of creation that come and create people, but don't necessarily function in our daily life." Okay, like the deists, they were a group that said, yes, God created the world, but then he left it to be. Many of the founding fathers of America were deists. They were also knowledgeable in many, many political systems and everything going way, way back. They were very brilliant men. God said, I have to show you that I'm involved in every aspect of your life. Pharaoh's thing was, since the river feeds us, everything's part of nature. Whatever God is, it's nature, and you can't change it. Hashem says, nature is the glove that I wear, but my hand is inside it. In other words, everything in this universe can change because it's my energy that's inside of it. We don't worship nature. Nature is a cloak. We say things are natural. Yes, Hashem set things in motion. But all of a sudden, at the beginning of the Torah, they go out of motion. And he says, with the flood, never again will I stop day and night from happening in a normal way, right? Never, I won't stop that again. So this point is that there's a mitzvah to know God. And even blowing the shofar, it says, "Blessed is he Yodei Trua, who knows the sound of a shofar." It doesn't say who blows the shofar. The mitzvah is to hear the shofar. But what does it mean? A Jew is supposed to try to know the unknowable. Tachlis Yodea Shalom Neda. The ultimate objective of knowledge is to know beyond knowing. Now, that doesn't mean that you know that there's more than you know. It means there's a way of knowing that's beyond intellect. And that comes through Torah study and through understanding and through an inkling. Anybody here who's an artist of any kind knows that, either in their voice or in their instrument or in they're building computers or something. Sometimes you just know something. You know so much up to this point that a door is opened that you didn't create, but the door opened because of your efforts. An example of this sort of, so to speak, a little bit, is Shavuos. We count 49 days and we work on our personalities for 49 days. We don't count the 50th day, but it comes. It's sort of because we went to 49 days, but not really. God gives it to us as a gift. It's called Matan Torah. But we do the work. Hashem says to Adam and Chava, La'ovda u'l'shamra, you shall work the earth and serve. You're here to serve the world. You're here to do your work. And because it's my birthday and I've been studying it, I know that the day of your Hebrew birthday is the day when your mazel resonates. What does people think the word mazel means? Luck. I remember in Yiddish theater, they used to say, Mazel tov. You know what that means. Mazel means luck, and tough means tough luck. Mazel tov. But it's not that. Mazel is the cosmic blueprint that you were given to enable you to accomplish what you need to accomplish in this world. And the way you find that out is by the trouble you run into, the things that happen to you, and the way you perceive reality. The Baal Shem Tov says, if a person sees something, it's meant as he said, everything you see is a lesson how to serve Hashem. But say you see something that bothers you, and your friend sees it and it doesn't bother him. It means you have a different relationship with that thing. They may have conquered that in themselves. Maybe it's up to you. Maybe not, but on every step, we are participants in the universe. We may set ourselves aside as Jews even, and still be the ultimate participants in the universe, because we're here to be a light to the nations, which means we have a responsibility for our behavior, which is beyond politics, which stems from the very fact that every day we get up and say, Modeh ani lefanecha, I give thanks before you for returning my soul. Where did my soul go? It says in Megillah, there's a list of things that are 1/60. It says it says honey is 1/60th of the taste of manna. Sleep is 1/60th of death. And when we wake up in the morning, there's some negativity on our fingernails. So the first thing we do after we say Modeh Ani and we don't use Hashem's name is we wash the tips of our fingers. Because even when we're sleeping, we're operating. Our soul is being refreshed. But if you notice, at the end of Modeh Ani, it says, Rabba amunatecha, your faithfulness is great. Wait, we're thanking God and we're saying, for believing in us. It sounds crazy. Wouldn't you think we would say, we believe in your faithfulness? But we don't. We say, Rabba amunatecha. He believes, he trusts us to do what we can with our own intellect. Even if we get into a place of I don't believe or something, he's trusting us that we're going to get somewhere because he gave us what's called the Torah. And that Torah is a blueprint. And learning to read that blueprint, you gain the architecture for how to rebuild your life in a stronger way, to make sure the foundations are stronger, to make sure that the agriculture in your life, that the seeds you plant grow. Many people plant many seeds and they leave them alone because they don't know how to nourish them. They don't know how to water them. We have a concept called netzach, which means endurance. If a friend is sick, you call them once, but you don't just call them once. That's not netzach. Netzach is checking up on them again, seeing, can I help you? Taking things a little further. But also ambition and that power you have to move forward. Moshe is related to that attribute of netzach. You have to make sure that it's done in a positive way and you don't use your ambition to step on other people. So opposite netzach is something called hod, which is humility, and glory, which puts a limitation on your own moving forward with a sense of humility. So all of our emotional factors help the other one grow by limiting it a little bit, expanding it by limiting it. The way you learn is not that you get all the knowledge, it's someone contracts the knowledge and limits it so you can understand it, right? You can't go into a class of nuclear physics if you haven't learned A plus B equals C. So things have to be contracted. However, in Judaism, what's called a metaphor, sometimes a nimshal, is that it's a story or it's a kind of analogy that gives you the whole truth, but it's said in a way that limits it so that you can absorb it. However, once you study what you've learned, you can build from that same analogy back up to the teacher's knowledge. Think of talking to children. You want to explain things in a way that later they'll be useful, not like a lot of the ways we learned in school. A lot of memorization had no connection to anything, but you have to have some of that too. So we're in Parshas Va'era. God appeared to the forefathers, but he appeared to Moshe in a way of transcendence. So what happens? Moshe goes to Pharaoh and he says, Hashem, Havaya, says to let my people come serve him in the desert. Now, I have that right? That's what it says, right? And what does Pharaoh say? I don't know this Havaya. This is the book of Shmos. Has to do with names. What's Moshe's name? Min Hamaya Mishistichu, named by Batya, the daughter of Pharaoh. He has 10 names. It says there was light. His name is Tovia, Yedidya. There are many names. But a lot of the second book starts off with telling the names. It's going to be a lot of stuff about names and how owning your own name and your personality helps you to have confidence and concretize. Pharaoh says, I don't know this name. What is he saying? I don't know any name that's transcendent. Let me try to get some more light here. Oh, I don't know any name that's beyond natural reality. He had not learned the name Elohim from Yosef, even if he said that he didn't recognize Yosef. They had heard the name. They probably wrote it in their book of idolatry and names. But the name Havaya, Moses is actually saying to him, I come from a place that's higher than you can understand. He says, I don't know that place. I don't believe it. The river is mine. Assisi, I made the river. Pharaoh was called the great crocodile as a metaphor, and the Egyptian and we called the fish. So in our life, we each have, unfortunately, a voice that claims to know everything. A Pharaoh, a negativity, a part of us that challenges us. In fact, the more you learn, the more the challenges come. And we'll see in next week's chapter how Moses is afraid to approach that point, but he does, and he can break it because when we have to face those parts of us, we have a Moshe inside us that goes with us. And then with going with Moshe is Hashem comes with us because he sent us there. You know, a lot of people when they're starting out, they say, oh, if I were doing this right, I wouldn't have all these thoughts in my mind when I'm praying and everything. No, 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 that's exactly why you have it. The Yetzer Hara is a wrestler. The stronger you get, the harder he fights. If you're already doing a lot of Mishigas, he doesn't bother you. If you're already breaking Shabbos a million ways and you don't care and you don't learn, you don't do it, he's not going to bother you. You're already doing it. But the minute you start, come the challenges, because you have to challenge some of the habits you've built up, which are reinforced by the newspapers, the media, and everything else. You know, they say he who controls the narrative. You know, Noam Chomsky was a famous kind of philosopher. He died recently. He said the best way to control people is to control the narrative and let them argue within the narrative anything they want so they think they're free. But he gives you the topic. Judaism doesn't want that topic. Judaism is the topic, why are we here and how do we serve God? Not which political thing here. What's our bottom line? We have two aspects to us. We have a strong bottom line, and having that strong foundation and bottom line gives us what? Great flexibility. It does not make you more, I don't know, stringent. It might make you more stringent on yourself. And some people have that attitude that they should stay away from everything anyway. But I have found personally that the more I've studied, the more people I can talk to of every different kind, because there's also involved a respect for people and understanding that the person you're speaking to was created by God with their story and their situation. And our job is to respect each other and give each other confidence because we have a playbook. We have a destination, which we call Mashiach. We have a vehicle, which is called the Torah. And we have a roadmap, which is Torah and mitzvahs. Got to learn to drive. Got to learn what to do if there's a detour. Got to learn what to do if a route is closed and you have to go around. But it's very much a trajectory. Because if you look at the Torah, each of the people in the Torah has a journey. Abraham goes on a journey. Isaac stays in one place, but he's on a journey. Jacob goes on a journey. Moshe goes on a journey. The Jewish people go on a journey, which is going to end in Eretz Yisrael. You and I are on a journey. We're not standing still. The only time we really stand still is during the Amidah, when we're praying. Tefillah is the only time we put our legs together like an angel. The rest of the time you could balance, you could daven, you could shuckle, you could move around. When it comes to the Amida, and you're standing in God's presence that deeply, there's no place to move because there's no place to go. You're already there. So in the Moreh Nevuchim, uh, Rambam, he discusses the different kinds of visions and God, what it means when God appeared, and different words that are used, and there are different layers of reality being revealed. When something is called revealed, it says God revealed himself. I mean, didn't the sages know about him? He did, but you have to make yourself into a vessel. Without humility, how can you make yourself into a vessel for someone else's love if they always feel like they have to break through a wall? Our own humility for each other, our care for each other, our belief and our awe and fear. I'm not afraid to use that word. Pachad Yitzchak, the fear of Isaac. He has a right to feel fear. He was on the altar, the knife was coming down, and he had his neck stretched out. That's awe. And Abraham, the most loving, the Midah of chesed, of kindness, says about Abraham to God, you don't need me, you got Abraham. He's, he loves truth because it's truth. But we need all of those pieces, and we will continue to develop these ideas, and the idea of being in exile, what it means to have a name, what it means to face our inner demons, because when you get to the Seder, the entire Seder is a 15-step program about breaking out of the things that hold us back. And everything at the Seder is a tool for that. In fact, every mitzvah of every holiday enables the revelation on that holiday. On Sukkot, we have the four species. They enable a certain vibration and radiance to enter the world. On Passover, the eating of matzah. Shavuos, we don't really have any special mitzvahs. We eat dairy. Yom Kippur, fasting. Rosh Hashanah, everything has something. Even Purim, eating becomes a vessel dedicated to something higher. It's the highest dedication when in your normal life, just normal eating, it becomes a mitzvah. A mitzvah basically is God's will. But it has to be dressed in something that can reach us. So that will is clothed in a commandment, a mitzvah, that we do. When we do that thing, we elevate something in the material world, and we connect to that non-existential light that is above us, that is the Ratzon, your will, your light. You are a channel. This is why studying makes you greater than you are, because if we just go by what our own intellect knows, everything is limited by our intellect. If we study Torah, we are channeling something greater to other people. And it gets channeled according to the level that you've made yourself into a vessel, which means through study and living a certain way and discussing and arguing. We don't have any problem with arguing. Moses spends his time arguing with God. Abraham argued with God. Very few times, as God said, except when the 10 martyrs, the angels say to God, "What are you doing? You're destroying these martyrs on Yom Kippur." And God said, "If you make one more sound, the world will revert to nothingness." I think it's the one and only places like that. But Hashem wants us to question. But in Hebrew, the word question is terutz. In Yiddish, it's also terutz. One means a question, the other means an excuse. So sometimes you meet people who always have a question about something, but basically they're looking for a back door not to commit. They don't really want the answer. If you're lucky enough to have a question that makes you delve into something, you will become smarter, wiser, broader through that search. If you have a question that just says, I'm out of here, and unfortunately, sometimes when people are dating, they do that. If the person doesn't have something on the shopping list, they head out. It doesn't make any sense. If you have a question and you're willing to follow the question, you will go somewhere unbelievable. But it's not meant to be a back door, because one question always leads to another question, as the Baal Shem Tov says. And for every other question, there's another answer. But the questions you ask should not be on the same level. Every year you should have deeper questions about the Torah. Which thing you had a hard time with? Which thing just doesn't sit with you? Which thing makes you feel great and you have no idea? What you feel like after classes? Has it affected your conversations with other people? Has it affected the way you look at the world? Just see, because it says, Ta'amu uru ki tov Hashem. Taste it and see. I think that's Psalm 51. There's no proof. King David says, taste it. Do something. Commit to something. Light a Shabbos candle. Give tzedakah. Hold off being angry. Check yourself out. Try something and see if it works. And I think we've used this example before. A comedian gets up and tells a joke. He or she, if it doesn't work, they try to work on it. Maybe try one more time. If it doesn't work, they throw it out. Humans keep trying the same thing over and over again, and it never works. And this relationship doesn't work, and that relationship doesn't work. And then they keep blaming on everybody else. No, very much is in your control, and it emanates from you. And with that, I would like to give everybody a bracha for my birthday, that everybody should be healthy. They should understand that intellect is not wisdom. So when it says we should receive wisdom, da'as meitcha, in our prayers, right, after Kel HaKodesh, says we should receive it from you. May you receive your wisdom from above. And may you be able, through Torah and mitzvahs, to translate it. You transferred your aspirations into your actualizations, your philosophy into a way of living, things that really pay off and enhance you, and you be a light to those among you. This is Phillip Namanworth saying thank you for joining us this week. This has been Creative Spirituality. Besoros Tovos, may we have a peace in Israel for all our people of Israel. Achdus Yisrael. First, the love of a fellow Jew, no matter where, no matter who. Those who need healing, Pesach Ben Yoman Ben Keli Yitta, who had a good review at the doctor. Anybody who's sick, they should have a healing. And we should come together as one people. See you next time. Be well.